What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the It's Game Time podcast. This is episode number 13. I am Jet, and with me, as always, is my co-host Eric. Eric, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Episode 13, you said, right? Lucky number 13, in which I do believe that this could be our last virtual recording because I'll be down in Tampa Sunday.
Okay. Oh yeah.
So, and then you're gonna drive up to me and then record and then just leave. I mean, why? Might as well.
Well, no, we're still gonna have to do it because I'm not gonna be in Tampa until the end of August, but we're still gonna have to.
You could make a trip up and come see me.
I'm not gonna do that. I have more important things to do, but
Really? I could drive down and see you, and then after we record, I can kick your ass in the show like it was right before we left at the end of the school year.
Yeah, that definitely did happen. I know you're probably gonna be a little rusty the first time we play again, because since you haven't played, I figured you maybe would have bought it by now, just because I know how much you love the game, and I still expect you to eventually buy it. But yeah, I can't wait for that rematch once we get back to playing again.
Oh, absolutely! It's gonna be great. So yeah, maybe like 3 to 4 more episodes possibly of doing it online, and then we'll finally be able to do it in person, which is a totally different experience.
Whole another ball game right there.
Jet has only you've experienced it though with room 423 once, but not regularly at all.
It'll be a lot smoother for sure.
Oh yes,
we won't have to deal with delays and stuff. So the product's only going to get better from here on out. So
absolutely. So why don't we jump right into it, in which Jet will go over the Instagram responses that we got over the past week based off of episode 12.
Yeah, so we actually had a milestone for one of our Instagram poll questions. This was the first time a question, everyone picked the same answer. And
wow.
The question was, will the Bucks become a dynasty? 14-0. Everyone said no.
Wow, I'm surprised by that. I'm surprised not one person.
No one has faith.
No one has faith. I mean, Giannis could prove us all wrong next year. He very well could. I mean, everyone had their doubts going into this postseason for them.
He would be the guy to prove everyone wrong again. So obviously, it's very unlikely with the Nets going to be healthy. While the Hawks, like you mentioned, they're going to be an up-and-coming team.
Knicks,
the Miami Heat, once they trade for they're gonna be very interested in some of the potential free agents, maybe trade for Damian Lillard. So we'll have to see.
Calling his name maybe a little bit. He may want to take a nice bite out of the Big Apple. You never know.
Well, a lot of questions that are still left to be unanswered, and hopefully we'll have some answers starting with the draft, which is this week, and free agency, which will eventually talk about down the line. But the next question I asked was, who is the best player in the NBA right now? And the 4 choices that I gave were Giannis, LeBron, KD, and Curry. Giannis won that vote, accumulating 7 of the 18 votes. KD and Curry tied with 5, and one person voted for LeBron, an avid LeBron supporter, Josh, who has been on the show. I was surprised you, Eric, didn't vote for LeBron, because I know that you have a big crush on him too.
I have a big crush, but I also got to be realistic. All right, I can't get over consumed with my crush for LeBron's, but obviously Giannis at the moment is the best player in the league and arguably the best player in the world. We'll see if that continues going into next season, because I think Luka has something to say about that, possibly a healthy KD has something to say about that, possibly. Curry could say something about that with him getting his Splash brother back in Klay Thompson this coming season. And then, I mean, LeBron also, he'll have a full offseason to get healthy, and hopefully AD can get whipped back into shape compared to last season. So all 3 of those guys could have something to say about that, and then other contenders also.
Yeah, I mean, I do think LeBron's reign as the best player in the NBA has unfortunately come to an end with all the up-and-coming talent like Giannis, like Luka. KD and Curry will always be in the mix. One thing I just want to mention, I watched Space Jam 2 a few nights ago, and I
Uh,
was yeah, and it definitely I had low expectations going into it, and that's what it meant. I think Space Jam the original was better with Michael Jordan. Not that I have anything against. I do have a little thing against LeBron, obviously, that as you guys seen over the course of the episodes, but it just wasn't. Sometimes the spinoff, the sequel, is not as good as the original, and that was just the case with this. So
I have when I was watching it, I did also think I was like the original is much better. The concept of it was decent and stuff. I just it there wasn't a lot of foundation laid. It seemed like it just got right into it. I don't know. It definitely was not as good as the original Space Jam.
yeah.
It it didn't meet my expectations. I thought it would be better than it actually was. I didn't think it was going to be better than the original Space Jam, but it underperformed for me.
Yeah, but the next question, now we're going over the baseball questions. I asked if Trevor Story was traded, where he will end up. Obviously, with the trade deadline right around the corner, he has been in a lot of the rumors. 6 of the 14 votes said the Yankees. How do you feel about that?
How many was it?
6 of the 14.
And I'm sorry, I completely blanked. What was the question again? That's my bad.
If Trevor Story is traded,
Oh,
where will he end up? Yeah.
that's absurd. That's just bogus. That's just a hype type of thing that's going around. I really, as a Yankee fan, I really hope that it doesn't happen. I want to talk about it in one of our topics, so I won't go into too much detail. I don't get that at all.
That's fair. Yeah. We'll definitely get into more MLB trade deadline stuff in just a few minutes. But again, going on another Yankees question, I thought, why not throw out a little question about whether the Yankees will make the playoffs or not? And the majority of the people did say that the Yankees will miss the playoffs. 10 of the 16 votes said no. I agreed with the majority. Eric, as a Yankees fan, does have a little bit of hope left in this season.
I very little. I have hope for a wild card. The weekend series against Boston, where they blew 2 games, and they actually blew a no hitter this past Sunday. That's going into the 8th inning. That kind of killed the hopes of a chance to get into the divisional race. But they're only 3 back from the Athletics. But the Athletics just now made a big time move at the trade deadline, so it kind of hurt the Yankees' chances possibly. I'm still holding out. All right. If they don't make any big type of sensible moves at the trade deadline, I think that they will miss the playoffs and a lot will change in the offseason.
Yeah, so the wild card is definitely a possibility. Like you said, with the Athletics' big move that they just made, which we'll get into in a little more depth coming up. I don't think the Rays nor the Athletics are going to give up that wild card spot. They're going to be the two teams that will earn those spots come playoff time. So we'll have to see what happens, but it's something to keep an eye on. The final question that I had right now: who has the best chance of winning the World Series? The Dodgers and the White Sox led the voting with 5 votes apiece. The Giants came in third with 3 votes, and the Red Sox came in last with 2 votes. We both said the Dodgers.
Yeah, you have to stick with the defending champs. There is no clear cut favorite to win. There's not a team above and beyond the rest of the competition. The Dodgers, they're in second place in their division. The Giants, you're still a suspect in the playoffs. They're obviously a great regular season team, but sometimes regular season doesn't translate to the postseason. So you and then the White Sox, they're a young up and coming team. They just got Eloy Jimenez back yesterday, I believe, and he came
Yes.
back in a big way. So that's great to see for the White Sox. So um, I I have to agree with the Dodgers and the White Sox probably being tied for best chance at the moment to win the World Series.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is going to be determined by what moves some of these teams make at the trade deadline. If we see the Giants make a big splash, I mean, they're the best team in baseball right now, and still people are sleeping on them, and we'll just have to see what happens. I think we're going to see some big names being moved, and that's going to probably swing teams in either direction. So we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, definitely. So now let's get right into the question of the day, in which Jet's going to present this time. So Jet, take over.
Yeah, so as everyone knows, the Olympics is going on right now after last year it being postponed to now it's happening. And a big story obviously in the US is our men's basketball team, and they, have struggled a little bit. They've had some ups and downs, players coming in and out of the lineup due to COVID and everything. But Eric, my question to you is, on a scale from 1 to 10, what is your confidence level in Team USA bringing home the gold?
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being duh, they're taking the gold as what we priorly thought going into the Olympics, and 1 being, well, they won't even have a chance to get to the podium. I'm gonna have to go with right now. They just beat Iran, destroyed them, I think, with by 50 or something like
Yeah.
that. So that's good sign. They did lose to France before that, and France is a quality team. They do have some NBA players on that squad. I'm gonna go with an 8 at the moment. I will go with an 8 because I know in the expedition games they did lose. They lost to Jamaica, and they, again, like I said, they just lost to France. They did beat Iran, but I think that all the they were going easy. They were being lackadaisical. Now they realize, oh shit, we gotta strap up. All right, we gotta get serious here, because if we don't, we will be ridiculed, absolutely ridiculed. If we don't even win gold, they would be ridiculed if they came in at silver, because I mean there's really no excuse not to get gold.
Yeah, I mean, my confidence level right now in Team USA is a 7, so right around the range. I mean, they are still the favorites, no matter all the ups and downs that they have experienced in the last 3 Olympics. They've gone 8-0 and won the gold medal each of those 3 times. They've won gold 15 of 18 times in the Olympics. They've totally dominated. The last time they didn't win gold was in 2004. They won a bronze medal. Obviously, this is the first time Coach Greg Popovich is coaching an Olympic team. There have been some players off the record voicing their displeasure towards the way that Greg Popovich is running the offensive system, which I get. If we're talking about a Spurs team that ran an offense that were last in 3-point attempts and 20th in scoring, I get it's different talent levels and everything like that. But when you have some of the best players on the world on this USA team, you kind of have to, maybe retool the offensive philosophy a little bit.
Yeah, the thing is that, like, you have Damian Lillard and Kevin Durant. If it was them two, and then put you, me, and Josh on the team, I think we still would have had a good chance of winning gold. Uh, there's too much talent to fail. That's the thing. Like, even if you don't agree with the system in place, the Team USA, the men's basketball team, has way too much talent to negate that from them winning gold. So
100%. Yeah, and then one other thing that I thought was very interesting, after the USA team lost to France, Evan Fournier, who plays on the France team and is also in the NBA, had this to say about beating the USA team. He said, quote, "They are better individually, but they can be beaten as a team." And obviously that's what we've seen, a bunch of stars on this USA team that haven't been able to put it all together and have that camaraderie that we've seen some of the other teams like France and Italy and Australia, who some of these guys have been playing together in multiple Olympics and they sort of have that chemistry built. So, I mean, obviously we both agree that US basketball team has a great chance to win gold, just like we've seen in years past. But maybe the road to getting that gold medal might be a little bit harder this year.
yeah, definitely. So we want to move right on to the next topic, in which, hey, the trade deadline, we're recording this on Wednesday, as always. The trade deadline is this Friday, in which just these past few hours, this past day, we have seen a lot happen. And even earlier on in the week, big name players have been traded. The first big name to be traded was Adam Frazier from the Pirates goes to the Padres. The Padres send 3 players over in return for Adam Frazier. I think that this is the Padres making a hard push to try and win the division and not just compete for a wild card.
Yeah, this is not someone I thought they were going to be targeting because they don't really have a glaring need at either second base or the outfield. Actually, Adam Frazier, he played in his first game with the Padres last night and he started in left field. So it seems like they're going to be able to use him as an option in left field. They have 4 all-stars at the top of their lineup with Frazier, Tatis, Cronenworth, and Machado, which is pretty remarkable. And why not add another piece that even adds more depth to your offensive production? So I think it's a great move for them going forward.
The GM said that he will be an option for second base, left field, and right field. So I think he will end up getting the most reps at second base because Cronenworth can slide to first base. And then I think Hosmer is actually going to be moved to the bench. Sadly,
He will be traded. He might be traded too.
Might be traded. Or they should have just implemented a universal DH in which then Hosmer could have just become the DH.
Exactly.
They didn't have to worry about that.
That's a whole nother story, but yeah, the DH should have been implemented, and that's a failure on Rob Manfred's part. So
exactly, another failure. Another name that got traded just these past few days was Nelson Cruz to the Rays. The Rays traded 4 players to the Twins for Nelson Cruz. Now, Nelson Cruz is a full-time DH, but that's actually not really a worry because, I mean, when you see that kind of clogs the system. But for the Rays, they've had 7 different players start in the DH position. So it's actually kind of security, and it's just, bam, all right, that's our DH. And now, usually Austin Meadows has led the way with, I think, 47 games started at DH. Now he's going to be put in the outfield. So that's actually probably strengthening their outfield defense a little bit more probably.
This was a great addition by the Rays. We see year after year the Rays sort of add these not like cheap bats. They don't have to give up. They didn't have to give up a lot for Nelson Cruz, and he's able to now slot into the middle of their order, provide that veteran presence, provide some pop at the 4th spot in the lineup. So I love this move, and I expect the Rays to be busy come trade deadline with adding maybe a starting pitcher as well.
Wow. I'm a little surprised to see the Rays went after and got him because the Rays, like you said, the Rays usually play non-big name guys. They get these like no-name guys that come out of nowhere and really help the team win. I mean, Randy Arozarena, I don't know what his prospect ranking was at all, but I didn't know of him coming up. And I mean, he took the world by storm in the 2020 playoffs. But I mean, Nelson Cruz is the opposite of that. He is 41 years old, and he's having somewhat of a down year. But I mean, he is a big name. I mean, he's still slugging it at the age of 41.
He's playing like he's in his 30s, and that's he's definitely going to be useful come playoff time for the Rays.
Yeah, the next player we want to talk about is he just got traded a few hours before we started recording. Hell, maybe within the hour of recording, and that's Jets Starling Marte. Jet, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so obviously Starling Marte was expected to be traded after the Marlins failed to come to an agreement on a contract extension with Marte, an impending free agent after the season. As everyone knows, when you're trading for a rental, you're usually not supposed to get that much in return because the team on the other end of that deal may not be able to re-sign that player. So why would they give up a lot? But today we saw a little shift in the way sellers are attacking the trading market, with Starling Marte now going to the Oakland Athletics with Jesus Luzardo, a former highly regarded pitching prospect, the #1 guy in this Athletics farm system, coming back to the Marlins, which now increases the Marlins pitching depth even more to go with the likes of Sixto Sanchez, Sandy Alcantara, Pablo Lopez. I can go on forever. The rich just became richer in this scenario. Obviously, Marte is going to help the A's a lot. They're currently on a 4-game winning streak, and they could use another bat to in the middle of their lineup. In regards to Jesus Luzardo, he has struggled this season. He was sent down to AAA after posting a 6+ ERA in the big leagues, but we've seen the Marlins be able to develop pitchers like Trevor Rogers and Sixto Sanchez before. He still is a very high upside name, and if they can figure out a way to use his talents, and they were able to acquire him for a player that is a rental, which blows my mind, and I think it's only going to change the landscape of the trading market as we move forward towards the deadline.
Now, are you kind of disappointed that you didn't get a offensive player at all? Because I know when we were talking about it last week, you were hoping that the Marlins, in return, would get more a offensive bat.
Yes, I am. Obviously, the focus is trading for a big offensive bat, but what I believe now is, now that they've added even more depth to the pitching, young depth, Jesus Luzardo is controllable until the end of 2026. So they can maybe trade one of their top guys right now for a guy that's already shown what he can do in the MLB. That's what my hope is. I don't know if that's going to happen. I know they were looking at maybe acquiring someone like Byron Buxton, which is, you know, a little risky considering his health, but that's the type of route that I would hope the Marlins would go towards.
That's a good thought process. I didn't even think about that, and how that could actually set up for them to trade one of their top pitching players at the moment and then get that big offensive bat. The next player I want to talk about is a big offensive bat in Trevor Story, and mainly Trevor Story to the Yanks. A lot of rumors have been going around, and there has been a trade offer that was made in which the Yanks were trying to acquire Story. The trade offer apparently was not good at all, so it's probably just feeling it out just to see what it would actually cost to get Story. It just, for me, it makes no sense for the Yankees because they are right now outside of the playoff window, and it would be a waste of prospects to try and trade for a rental. And I also don't think that they're in the position even to give him a contract after the year is over. I think they're the second highest salary right now in the MLB, and Trevor Story would easily put them at first place over the Dodgers. I don't think this is going to happen anymore. Early in the week, I was really scared of it happening, but I would have hated to see that happen, and I think that I would think that the front office would be delusional for them to take that risk.
Yeah. Obviously we both have said on this show that we think the perfect spot for him is the Milwaukee Brewers, and we're still holding by that. We're not wavering off of that opinion, although there have been a few reports out there saying that, but a lot of GMs say this, that they're not going to trade their star guys, and then a few hours later we see them shipped out of town. So I mean, there's still a few days left before the deadline. And obviously, a lot of teams are interested in Trevor Story because another big bat they can put right in the middle of the order and give your team a little more pop heading into playoff time.
Yeah. Now I want to talk about an actual team, not a few of their players, but the Nationals. They have come out and said they're actually willing to trade. The main candidate that could be traded is Max Scherzer, in which he would obviously be going to a team going for a championship, not the playoffs. Like I said, I think a team that it could be has been connected to him is the Padres, in which if they went out and got him, they are now my favorite to win the division by the end of the year. And possibly then, if the Brewers didn't get Story and the Padres got Mad Max, the Padres are now my favorite to win the World Series, without a doubt.
I think the odds of him ending up on one of the NL West teams is extremely high if he is moved. I think the Dodgers have a better chance of acquiring him. We've seen them be able to acquire some of these big name guys in the middle of the season. And now with the uncertainty surrounding Trevor Bauer, I don't expect him to return due to all the allegations against him. The MLB just extended his leave a few extra weeks. So that's something to keep an eye on. But another dark horse team, I did mention a little earlier that the Rays are one of those teams that I expect to make a move for a starting pitching. However, this is going to be a very, very big ask from the Nationals just because, Scherzer is Scherzer. the Rays aren't, known. I mean, they aren't known. They're not going to throw away their whole farm system for a guy that is aging. And it is not something that is normal for them to do, but they are looking for starting pitching with the absence of Tyler Glasnow, who may or may not return this season. And if they want to get back to the World Series, this is the type of move that I think will have to that could end up propelling them back to that spot.
If the Rays were to do that, that's almost them being like the Yankees because of going out and getting that big name, expensive name. That's the big thing, is that Max Scherzer is expensive.
Yes.
I don't think they're concerned about the age. It's the money.
That's
I mean,
true.
the Rays don't like to spend money at all.
No.
They like cheap guys, and Mad Max is the complete opposite of that. So that would be astonishing for them to go and do that. That would then actually kind of going away from what is successful for them.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, the NL West is probably one of those teams in there. One of the top teams is probably the favorite to end up acquiring him. But I mean, I'm surprised that we saw a lot of reports saying that Max wasn't going to be moved, and I know he has since he's a certain age and he's had a certain amount of experience time in the league, he does have a certain list of teams that he will not want to go to. I know there's a lot of obviously teams like the Mets are on there, I heard, and a few other teams that he just would not want to go to. Anybody on the NL West, he's clear to go to. So we'll have to see where this goes from here.
Another player on the Nationals, though, that they have come out and said that they're willing to look at offers is Trey Turner. He's not going to get traded because the asking price would be way too high, and it makes no sense on the Nationals' part. He's arguably a top 5 shortstop in the NL. Why are the Nationals willing to trade him? It makes no I don't even know why they put that rumor out there, because obviously they put it out there. Why would someone you can't just come up with that, because no one before the trade deadline period came along the week before, no one even thought that they were willing to trade Turner. But now they've said it. He's not going to get traded, but it's just more of like, why are the Nationals willing to put that rumor out there?
Yeah, there was a little little controversy when he left the game last night. People were intrigued by the idea that he might have gotten traded. Obviously, it has since been announced that he tested positive for the coronavirus. In regards to if he'll get traded, it makes absolutely no sense to want to trade him. He's young. He's one of the best shortstops in the MLB. Although you would get a huge package for him, it's just not worth it. Him and Soto, they both should be untouchable.
Exactly. But now we're going to transition with our friend Connor. He is our guest appearance this week, in which we're going to talk a little bit about the Ravens, a little bit about fantasy football, and then we're going to do a trivia time once again. So we're going to head right on over into that. And then, so how we're going to do it is Jet's just going to go right into it. He'll introduce you, talk about yourself a little bit, like where you go to school, what you do and stuff like that, what you do for fun or anything. And I guess talk about the sports teams you cheer for. And then we're going to go right into the Ravens, ask a few questions to you. And then if we have time, we should have time. We'll talk a little bit about fantasy and stuff like that, because I know you wanted to a little bit. So if you want to present any topics in fantasy to talk about for a little bit, and then we'll go right into fantasy and then, into the trivia, and then that'll be it.
Sounds good.
All right.
Ready to go? I'm ready.
Yep. You can, okay. So I'll count down from 5 with my hand, and that's when you can start.
Okay. Welcome back, everybody. We are now joined by one of our good friends from the University of Tampa and Baltimore Ravens aficionado, Connor Pelesh. Connor, how are you doing today?
Thank you, boys. So good to see you guys. Ready to talk some football. Thank you for having me.
Now, Connor, what do you what do you do? What do you do? I mean, sorry, what do you major in at Tampa?
So I am a sport management major. I am a rising sophomore, and I'm an undecided minor, but I think I might go into business analytics, hoping to get some job in the sport industry, hopefully with an NFL team, either in sales, scouting, team operations, something like that. So trying to get as much experience as I can. Also like talking football with the boys as well.
I highly recommend the minor in business analytics because that's what I'm currently minoring, and so I highly recommend that for myself.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
Of course, and I'm pretty sure, isn't your dream job becoming the GM of the Baltimore Ravens?
Oh, let's take small steps. I'm just gonna try to get in first, and then 10, 15 years I'll give you a call and see how it's going. But you never know.
Definitely, please do. I better get some like season tickets or something like that.
Exactly. I'll hook you up, Eric. I'll hook you up.
Yeah, and Connor, we worked together in intramurals for UTampa, and we also now work together for Blitzalytics, a company that specializes in football and scouting and analytics and stuff like that. Yeah, so great to have you on, and obviously I have some hard hitting questions about the Ravens, and I'm sure Eric has some to some extent. So ready to get into it?
Absolutely. Can't wait to hear him.
Okay. I'll start us off because I want to get right into it about Lamar Jackson. So let me just read you a couple stats from his season last year. So obviously he's basically a running back, obviously, and he definitely has the ability to improve as a passer. Don't get me wrong. He had a 64.4% completion percentage last year, which was 27th in the NFL. His throws outside the numbers dropped from 2019 to 2020 from 64.7% to 59.7%. His interception rate doubled from 2019 to 2020, and his passer rating fell from 101 to 85. Tell me why I'm wrong, and tell me why Lamar Jackson is an unbelievable quarterback and is only going to improve as a quarterback.
Well, a lot of your stats, which I can see, may not look super great on paper. When you actually watch the tape and you look at the team around, I'm not going to say that the Ravens have a really bad team around because they have some really good pieces. But you look at the Chiefs with what they have offensively in terms of weapons. If you're bad with that type of weapons, you must be trash. So the fact that like Lamar having these, not saying the weapons are terrible, but having these average receiving core, running back core, and offensive line makes it a lot tougher to really perform and get the eye-popping yards, touchdown passes, and stuff like that. So I'll point to two things right off the bat that pretty much derailed the entire season last year. One being the offensive line being completely in shambles last year. Ronnie Stanley gets hurt like week 5 or week 6 or whatever in the Pittsburgh game. Our left side of the offensive line, we had to move Orlando Brown from the right side to the left. So our offensive line from that point just completely messed up. Center could not snap the ball. We lost 2 regular season games and the playoff game that we lost because of our center derailing drives that could have put points up on the board. And then the second point I'll kind of give, the wide receiver core being very, very subpar. Hollywood Brown showing flashes at times, but having drop issues, especially I think of the Browns game on Monday night. Couldn't catch anything until that last play, which obviously everyone remembers, which was great. But like a lot of the interceptions, like Miles Boykin and stuff needing to step up. We have Bateman, who I'm really, really excited for this year. Should be good route runner, possession receiver. And then I'm not going to get super hyped up on Sammy Watkins. I know probably people will laugh at that, but he'll be good for the first like 3 or 4 weeks until he gets hurt.
For week 1, he'll be good. Like
For week
every
1,
year.
yeah. Start him in fantasy week 1 against the Raiders. He'll get probably 50 fantasy points and then get hurt in practice, not even before the next game. So those are kind of 2 starting points where I'll say kind of derailed the season from why 2019 was so good. Even though we didn't have great receivers, the offensive line was much, much better. And I think this year, well, obviously we'd have a lot more reps, but Lamar, I guess, just got COVID. So there's another 2-week delay with the reps. But I think if we can get the receivers in a good rhythm and stuff like that, Greg Roman keeping to the play call. You need to run the ball, but at the same time, sometimes he'd be too reliant on it when there'd be open times to pass, and he would still be just trying to do the same kind of run plays. So it's kind of find that right balance of play calling as well as just staying healthy. So we'll see.
One other thing I just want to add really quickly. I think Connor had a higher completion percentage in intramural flag football than Lamar Jackson had during the regular season.
Hey, I was dropping dimes, but Nico, the Ravens don't have Nico, as a receiver. So.
But Connor, I'm wondering, where do you see the Ravens in the divisional race? Because you talked a good amount, and I'm happy you did, about the roster. Sorry, the roster. I think that personally, talent wise, throughout the roster, they're the second best team in the division behind the Browns. The court is still out, I think, of whether or not Baker or Lamar is a better QB at the moment for me. But I think that the only offensive position that you guys are better at is tight end. And I also don't think there's a very huge gap in between Mark Andrews and Austin Hooper. Hooper could very well have a breakout year this year and become a top tight end. The O-line's harder to judge, but you talked a good amount about it. On the defensive side of the ball, I think their D-line is better than your guys's, but y'all's secondary is much better than theirs. I think the linebackers lean towards the Ravens, but that could change this year with the rookie that the Browns just drafted. So where do you see them in the divisional race?
Well, I definitely see the North as a two-team race. I'm not going to discredit the Steelers or anything because they swept us, so I really don't have any room to talk. But this team is going to regress. I can say that right now. The Steelers are going to regress. The Bengals are still rebuilding. So I'm going to kind of not talk about those teams for those reasons. In terms of the two-team race about who I think is going to win, obviously I think we're going to win, and I'll tell you a couple reasons why. Number one, Lamar in general, he's a winner. He's 5-1 against the Browns. If you remember last year, that Monday Night Football game, the Browns were rolling. They were like on a 6-game win streak. We had just gotten off from having everybody back from COVID. Like this was our first game. Lamar was out half the game. We were up by like 14 points or 17 points or something like that. This dude leaves for half the game, comes back, and we still win. So you have to think if he was in the game, we would have even won by more points. It wouldn't have been that close. Everyone's saying like, oh, look at this game. They were super close. Yes, on paper, the roster looks very similar, but I think when it comes down to winning, the Browns are obviously getting there. They made divisional round very good. But at the same time, the Ravens are their boss. The Ravens are their king. And until they beat them in like a meaningful game, I think it's December sometime like week 14, 15, the Browns go to Ravens on Sunday Night Football. That'll probably be for the division. That'll be a really good game. Like I said, Lamar's 5-1 versus Baker and the Browns. A lot of the positions and stuff are tight. I'll give Cleveland credit, like running back, awesome. Baker's definitely a lot better. Their offensive line is great. I think defensively, like you said, our secondary gives us an advantage because you have Odell, Jarvis, Hooper in them. We have the corners to cover. We got the safeties to cover. We got the linebackers who are getting a little bit better. Pressure is kind of like where the Browns with Myles Garrett and Clowney, if he stays healthy, will be an advantage for them. But like I said, Lamar can just run around those guys and pretty much diffuse any real pressure that they have by just simply running up the middle, making a guy miss for 50 yards. So
definitely.
Yep.
Yeah, I have the Browns winning the division, but that's for a later episode when we give our NFL season predictions. But I want to go back on you touched a little bit on the draft that the Ravens had. Obviously they picked Rashad Bateman in round 1, which I think is a very good pick, and it's definitely going to help Lamar Jackson. As much as I say Lamar Jackson is not going to evolve as a passer, it's definitely going to help his chances at improving. If you had to give the Ravens a grade on the draft, what grade would you give them? And if you want to go into a little detail on some of the other picks they made, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, I give it a B plus. Not quite an A minus, not because of the selections were bad, any of them that was like super, super questionable. But I think that we haven't had 2 first-round picks in a while. And we could have, I think, moved around I expected us to move around the board a little bit better, whether it was taking the 2 picks, trading up a little bit higher to get someone really, really good. Not that our players are bad or anything like that, or vice versa, taking the 2 first-round picks, trading back one of them, and then trading the other one into the second, get a couple of second-rounders or a third-rounder or 2. I would say one of the picks, Bateman, obviously, I believe will be the best pick. Hopefully, fingers crossed. He's going to be – I'm really hoping like the Justin Jefferson kind where he comes in and makes that big of an impact. If we get that, I'm telling you, it's at least AFC Championship game minimum if he's that good and the team stays healthy. The other name, Ben Cleveland, guard out of Georgia. I think he played right guard in college and stuff, but he'll be looking to go for that left guard spot because we kind of have a position battle going on right now with Ben Powers and a couple other people. But Cleveland, I mean, he's like 6'6", 6'7", just a giant guy that Lamar can run behind, kind of get lost behind and be really shifty. So if he can be that left guard for the next 10 years for the organization, obviously that would be our best pick. Jason Oweh, the pass rusher, Apparently, he's looked really good in camp. Looks big, looks explosive, looking to take a starting role. But he's more of that was the kind of pick where I was kind of surprised that we took him, just because I knew we needed a edge rusher, but just him not having that much production in college, bringing him right onto a team that needs the production now, because that's kind of like our weak spot, will definitely be interesting. So I'll give it a B plus, but it could go up to an A-A.
I love the call on Rashad Bateman. I actually wrote an article for blitzalytics.com where I talk about most likely to be this year's Justin Jefferson is Rashad Bateman. A lot of the similarities with Minnesota being a very run heavy team. Obviously, the Ravens are pretty run heavy as well. So I think it's definitely a possibility for Bateman to have that kind of year this season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Connor, a player that I think needs to have a good season, though. I think Bateman, I'm on this train too. I think Bateman's going to have a great season. I think he's going to be Lamar's top wide receiver because of how big of a target he is. But I think a more important player and a player that needs to have a good season, though, is J.K. Dobbins, because they don't have Mark Ingram anymore, and they need Dobbins to step up and take over the production that Ingram put up for them if they want to win the division this year. I mean, what are your feelings around J.K. Dobbins in this coming season?
I mean, yeah, that was one of the fantasy points I was talking about. I am so high on J.K. Dobbins. The last, I believe, 8 or 9 games of the regular season, including the Titans playoff game, had a touchdown every single game that we had. So that was unbelievable. There was one play where I think it was that Browns Monday Night Football game. It was a 2-point conversion to take like a 7-point lead, where he literally gave a Browns player a concussion because he ran over him like so good, lowered the shoulder and literally knocked the guy out. So once I saw that play, I knew, even though he's a little bit smaller, he's not like a Derrick Henry, 6 foot, whatever, but he's really, really strong. He's posted a lot of workout videos that I think he'll take a giant leap. One of the biggest things to not get too carried over for is the yards, because he did lead the league last year in yards per carry. But we do have Gus Edwards, who will be really good, got a contract extension, who's a very, very good number 2. And then obviously Lamar not being a running back, he does run the ball when he needs to. When the pocket breaks down and none of our receivers are open, hopefully Bateman changes that and Hollywood gets better. Receivers blanketed, triple coverage, whatever. Lamar just steps up, makes one linebacker fall down, and that's where some of the running yards come from there. So don't be too concerned of Dobbins. I think he'll have well over 1,000 yards, but I don't think he's going to be close to Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Saquon, because that's pretty much all they have. We have 2 other running threats, I will say. Gus Edwards, the running back, and Lamar Jackson, the running threat quarterback, who will take some of those yards away from J.K. Dobbins. But if you're looking for fantasy, looking for touchdowns, this is going to be the guy who Mark Ingram was on the 1-yard line. We're not letting Lamar go in there and get hurt. This guy's going to get the ball and score. So,
yeah, part of the reason I do struggle with wanting to draft J.K. Dobbins, especially in PPR leagues, because I don't think he's going to receive a ton of work in the passing game per se. I could be wrong. Obviously, Gus Edwards is still going to have a role. Lamar Jackson is still going to get a ton of rush yards as always. That's the only part I struggle on with J.K. Dobbins. I do think in leagues where you don't play PPR, he's a better option. But in regards to just his involvement in the passing game, that would be my only concern with him.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. It would take about through September to know whether this guy's going to catch enough passes or not to be a viable starter. He said in a press conference interview during minicamp that he has been working on it a lot and has been really trying to improve that aspect of his game. He had a couple of blocking issues as well. If you look back to the divisional game, he missed pretty much a key block on the play before that Bills pick 6 that ended the game. I'm telling you, this dude picks up that block. It's a tie game. So I think he needs to get a little bit better in that aspect, but that's not really a fantasy thing. But those are the 2 parts of his game. He's good on speed. He's good on his vision and stuff. It's more of just being a viable pass option, because he did drop a couple of balls. He's working on that as well as his blocking, but that's more of just a team success thing.
Yeah, I want to transition into fantasy now. I know you had a few points. What is your experience with fantasy? Because now we are in a league together. So I needed to get a feeler out, because I think I'm the younging in the entire group. So Connor, what's your experience with fantasy?
Yeah, I think I've been playing fantasy football since middle school, so it's at least been 5-6 years at a minimum. I'm usually in 2 or 3 leagues every year, so I definitely have a lot of teams on my plate to try to manage the free agency board and stuff like that, like ads and pickups and stuff like that. as well as doing a lot of trades and stuff. I'm a person that likes trades. I think it's a lot of fun, makes the league fun. People kind of know that I will sometimes be a homer and take the players that I'm high on. I'm not going to say anything like
I'm
that.
writing that down. I got okay.
Not going to say any names because no, it sometimes backfires a little bit. I definitely say I've had my shares of being unlucky with either injuries or a player on the, like, say I'm playing against Eric and he'll have some random wide receiver go for 60 points and I'll lose because my team did great, but he has this one guy that went off for like 60 points. That's normally how my fantasy goes, but definitely had a couple wins, definitely had a couple bad seasons. So it's been interesting to see this year. I think I'm in 4 leagues, so we'll kind of see how this one goes.
Yeah, I want to just get a sense of your kind of strategy when you go into drafts. You don't have to give too much away because obviously we are in a league together, the official first annual It's Game Time podcast fantasy football league. Stay tuned for that, everybody. But yeah, if you can just kind of go over like what you're looking for when you go into a draft every year.
Yeah, so I think it kind of depends on the initial draft spot. So if I'm in the top 3, I'll be in a completely different position as if I was in the back half where it's snake. So you get to take 2 players pretty close together. So that kind of determines what I'm looking to do. I'm not going to say positions and stuff like that right here because you guys are like, oh, he's in the top 3. This is who he's taken. So I'm just going to pretty much mark that off. I'm going to make it completely I definitely want players that are going to stay healthy, at least in my opinion, that I feel like had either a bad year last year or looking to be a lot better this year and have something to prove. Like I said, not going to say any names whatsoever, but at the same time, you do know kind of that since I'm a fan, I'm going to take some of my guys who it's a little bit easier to root for them, especially if they're on my fantasy team. So it's a double high five for me. My team wins and my fantasy team wins, but at the same time, sometimes that backfires because if I have too much on one team and the Ravens stink one week, then I'm losing 2 times. So I'm going to try to not do that this year, but there's definitely a couple of players that need to be taken. Not on
Yeah, I'm sure Eric, myself, and everyone else in the league will be more than happy for you to reach on a couple Ravens players. So that definitely won't be an issue at all.
Yeah.
So, Jet, do you want to get now into trivia time?
Yeah, so just one other thing before I get into trivia. Everyone just stay tuned. I will be going live with Eric August 1st, this upcoming Sunday, time to be determined. We will be announcing the official draft order for this fantasy football league that Connor's a part of. So everyone stay tuned to that. You can see where we'll all be drafting from. Kind of lock in your picks of who you think is going to win the league based off of where we'll be picking the order. So that's something just to keep an eye on in a few days. But it's time. It's trivia time, guys, and we're bringing it back again after several week absence. It is going to be Connor versus Eric. Eric has a record right now of 1-2. He's looking to get back up to 500. The questions are a combination of Ravens. I had to mix in some Giants stuff because Eric is a Giants fan, and as awful it is sometimes talking about the Giants, we had to include them for this segment. But yeah, it's going to be 5 questions. 4 of them are multiple choice. One is just say the answer, and if there's a tie at the end, I have a tiebreaker question. It'll be the closest to the number. You guys ready?
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. Question number 1. The Giants and Ravens have played each other a total of 7 times. Who has the edge in this series?
Are playoffs included?
Playoffs are included.
Ravens.
Yeah,
Connor?
it's Ravens. It's
Okay,
easy.
yeah,
It's Ravens.
We gotta start off on a little easier note. So you guys both get a point. Great job. And yes, going forward, you guys can just one person, if you know it, just say it. We'll alternate just so we have both answers locked in. On to question number 2. Marquise Brown and Antonio Brown are one of many pairs of cousins that play in the NFL. Choose another pair of cousins from these choices. Is it A, Stephon Diggs and Trayvon Diggs, B, Kendall and Kyle Fuller, C, AJ and TJ Green, or D, Jason and Travis Kelce? I'm looking for another pair of cousins.
I'm going C.
I'm gonna go A. I think it's the Diggs.
It is C. AJ and TJ Green are cousins. What? Yes. Stephon Diggs and Trayvon Diggs are brothers.
They're brothers? Oh
yes.
My.
Yes.
I really don't follow. I'm not a big fan of Stephon after a couple encounters with him. So
understandable, but Eric gets the point for that question. It is currently 2-1 in Eric's favor. Let's see if Connor is able to make a comeback here. Going on to question number 3. The Ravens haven't had a receiver touch 1,000 yards in a season since 2017. Who was that player in 2017? Was it A, Mike Wallace, B, Steve Smith, C, Torrey Smith, or D, John Brown?
I know the answer. I'm waiting for Eric to say it. I know the answer though.
Steve Smith.
Nope, it's Mike Wallace.
It is Mike Wallace. Yes.
I knew as soon as you said Steve Smith, he would pick that one because he would have no clue.
I didn't.
Yes, Steve Smith had 1,000 yards, but it was back in 2015. Mike Wallace had 1,017 yards in 2017. He was the last guy to do it. Maybe Rashad Bateman will be that guy this year. We'll find out. On to question number 4. We have a tie game, 2-2. Over the course of Ravens draft history, which school had they drafted the most players from? Is it A, Alabama, B, Oklahoma, C, Notre Dame, or D, Miami?
Oh,
All time? All
All time, yes.
Ooh.
Um,
You want me to go first since he's going first
if you
every
know
time?
yeah, go ahead.
Dang. Because like I'm thinking about recently and it's like all one school, but I'm thinking like the last like 5 years it's been all another school, and then like 10 years back it's been all another school. I'm gonna go Alabama.
I'm gonna go Miami.
It's actually Oklahoma. They've had 12 players drafted from that school. Alabama is in second with 11.
Yeah, I knew it was super close. We've taken all Sooners the last like 3 or 4 years. Hollywood, Mark Andrews.
I was thinking Oklahoma, and I was
Miami is dead, not dead last, but 4th with 6, dead last among those choices. But yeah.
Okay.
Dang, that was a coin flip because I knew back like in the round like 2015 it was literally Alabama, CJ Mosley, all those guys.
All right, tie game going into question number 5. We'll see if we have to use the tiebreaker, but question number 5. The Ravens were one of 2 teams with 3 fumbles returned for a touchdown. Who was the other team with 3 fumbles returned for a touchdown? Is it A, the Dolphins, B, the Panthers, C, the Rams, or D, the Steelers?
Fumble recoveries for
a touchdown.
I'm gonna go Steelers.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna really hope I remember this right. I'm gonna go Panthers. I'm gonna go Panthers.
The Panthers is the correct answer. They had 3 fumbles returned for the touchdown.
I remember Jeremy Chin's watching at least one of them. I was like, wait, this guy ran it all the way back.
Rams and Steelers had 0 fumbles returned for a touchdown, and the Dolphins had 2. Congratulations, Connor. You have bumped Eric to a record of 1-3 against our gets. So well deserved. Although there's a lot of Ravens based questions. Eric hung in there, but in the end, Connor did come out on top. So great job.
That's true. Yeah, I'll give him credit. Like the Mike Wallace one, I knew he wasn't gonna get that one, but if it was a Giants one, I probably wouldn't have done as well. So credit to Eric, but definitely
Congratulations.
Thank you.
But yeah, guys, that was episode 13 of It's Game Time. 13 episodes. We should be back once again. I'll be down in Tampa. Jet will sadly not be willing to make the trip to do it in person, I guess. Blame him if you want. But Jet, do you want to give out all the socials?
Yeah, you can follow us on Instagram at itsgametime_podcast. Keep up with all of our content. Another IGTV episode 7. I will be talking about this episode and previewing episode 14. Like I mentioned, we are starting a fantasy football league with Connor and a bunch of other guests that have appeared on past episodes. So keep an eye on updates of that as we get into fantasy football draft season. Follow us on Twitter at gametime_its, and even on TikTok. Show us love everywhere. We really appreciate it. Keep interacting with us. Keep engaging in the comments section. I know we got a little engagement this morning on the Ravens post about the controversial Lamar Jackson's running back. Obviously his and everything, but maybe Connor disputed that for the time being. But we have a lot to look out for this upcoming NFL season.
Yeah. Connor, thank you so much for coming on with us and talking about your Ravens, giving a little bit of fantasy and destroying me in trivia.
Hey, always a pleasure, guys. Always a pleasure.
But yeah, guys, once again, that was episode 13 of It's Game Time. We hope you enjoyed and continue to enjoy. Peace out.